Alright guys, welcome to part 1 of the turbo 600 horsepower all-wheel drive K-Series build? I think that's what we're calling this thing.
Louder.
As you see right here, this is my 1996 Honda Civic EK hatch that I painted Indie Yellow Pearl myself just a couple months ago on the channel. So if you guys are interested in those videos, be sure to check them out. They will be in a playlist below. I did just end up ripping out a 500 horsepower Fully Built D16, which is kind of like the little stepchild of the Honda motors trying to make powder. This is, I have some big plans for this, but not yet. So as you can see right here, I have a K24A2 out of an 07 TSX, and all-wheel drive transmission out of a 03 CRV. I got a Chinese spoolie boy right here right now, which we're going to upgrade this to a Garrett. Over here, I have the Hub City Performance rear bolt-on trailing arm kit, and in diff mount, I have turbo manifold, and then hiding back over here, we have some Wagovan parts. So this is a Wagovan diff, drive shaft, axles, and viscous coupler. So that's pretty much the really basic version of actually getting these things to actually work in here all together. So the goals for this thing is 600 horsepower on the stock engine. I would like to go to the track and run 10s on basically the stock size tire, like a 205 15-inch tire. So super simple street setup. Just getting down to business. In the last video I did uninstall the D16. In this video I'm going to go ahead and get the engine bay all cleaned up. One of the main things that you need to do when you're converting to all-wheel drive, and what a lot of people do when they swap to the K-Series in the EK chassis, which this is, the 96 to 2000, is you swap to an EG subframe. So simple difference between right here and there is you can see the steering rack is incorporated into the back of that and kind of underneath it, and there's not a whole lot of room right here for the transfer case. Whereas if you look right here, the steering rack is kind of out front, in front of all this stuff, and the transfer case will have plenty of space to go right there. I'm using the Hasport mount, and using those mounts, it will basically give it better axle angles in the front, so we won't have the axles binding or doing anything like that, especially, which is pretty essential at high horsepower builds. I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling off some of the front end of this stuff. I still have the intercooler set up from the D16 that was in there. We did yank out all the wiring and stuff, but basically just gonna try to clean up the engine bay in here. I'm trying to debate if I should actually paint this thing or not. It's already been painted, got a little bit of overspray on it, so I've thought about revamping it again. So we'll figure that out here in just a little bit, whether we're painting it tonight. But the goals for today is we're going to get the subframe mounted in there, or get this one out at least, get the engine bay cleaned up, and then maybe try mounting the engine and trans. It's not 100% ready to be finalized yet. We'll probably have to pull it in and out a couple times, maybe not. But shifter cables, brake lines, fuel lines, radiator, all that type of stuff, all still needs to be figured out. But let's get started. So just getting ready to drop the subframe. Well, actually, I'm in the process of dropping the subframe and the wiring. So one of my biggest complaints about this car when I first actually got it was that it had a shaved and tucked engine bay. It's kind of nice. Obviously the paint was nice at some point. I let it sit around the shop for too long and got a lot of overspray on it, so it's not as shiny and pretty as it was. But there's a lot of dirt, in areas like that, which isn't a big deal. But shaved and tucked harness. So you could see down here, I'm getting ready to, the subframe would already be out of here, but see this wire comes out of here? So that actually goes up front to this. So this goes to all the headlight wiring and all that stuff for the front. I think the fan wiring. It's weird. I basically had to pull off this hose right there because it was underneath the hose. So it was basically locked into the subframe. So I pulled off that hose right there, and then I get going a little bit further, and obviously they deleted the power steering in this car. So you can see right there, that is in between the middle of the wires of the harness. So in order to get the subframe out, I had to do that. So now it should drop all the way out of the way. It was just kind of interesting that literally the wires were wrapped around like the middle of the harness, and they weren't even able to get the stuff around it, obviously, because they couldn't, because they had to go over the thing. So yeah, EG subframe, or EK subframe, is out. Now I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning this engine bay, and we're going to see if I'm going to be okay with it or if it's getting resprayed. So we got the new subframe in. We didn't go full Tommy F-Yacht spec and have these guys sent out and all the new zinc plated bolts and all that stuff. But it's freaking Honda, and it's gonna work. So cleaned it up a little bit, painted it. Obviously, you could see it's got the Hasport mount right there. Kind of offsets it over to the side a little bit, and you can see all this room right there. And I know you guys are thinking I'm gonna say it. All this room for what? An all-wheel drive transfer case. So we got an all-wheel drive transfer case. Plenty of room for that. Fuel tank's definitely gonna have to come out and doing a fuel cell. I need to order that still, but all-wheel drive stuff's coming soon. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and actually stick this guy in from the top, I believe. Went ahead and removed the stock exhaust manifold, AC compressor, power steering pump, all that other stuff. But basically untouched, unopened, K24 A2. That's the goal, K24 A2. Try to make close to 600 horsepower. Completely stock. We did have to swap this bracket off of the CRV engine because this one was a little bit different. But yeah, I guess there's nothing else to do other than freaking stick it in the air and yank it up. Alright guys, well there she is. That right there. The beginnings of a K-swapped all-wheel drive Civic. Basically got her in the evening. Wasn't too bad. Cleaned up the engine bay. You can see that stuff's not too bad for what it is. Definitely gonna have to get a different water neck right here. A lot of people, since this is the K24, it has a weird water neck where it bolts on the side of the head instead of the front. So I'll have to get a different water neck for that. You can see the wastegate basically goes right into where all that stuff would. This is just a mock-up turbo. I think we're going to do like a 3582 on this guy, which I'm pretty stoked about. For exhaust, not 100% sure if we're going to go all the way back or just out the hood. Yeah, you can see there's that mount back there. It's only using 2 of the bolts. It's missing 1 of them, but that's how it mounts on the back. Got the mounts right here. And this K-series looks like it was like meant to be. It has like that perfect little gap around there. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. I'm just freaking stoked. The obviously different intake manifold, throttle body, turbo, all that type of stuff. But I just like to kind of in these stages, it's one of those things where you almost have to actually just start putting like what you have together to see what else you actually need. So, you know, initially, like some people could assume like, oh, maybe you could put a radiator there. Well, I mean, there's like, you probably could put a radiator here, but all the hoses, so you can see the bottom hose comes out right there, and this hose comes out over here. So obviously the radiator over here makes the most sense. I am kind of mocking up the intercooler right there, showing kind of the side-by-side thing. So this is actually a pretty big intercooler, especially for this K-swap. A lot of people use a little bit smaller ones, but I think what we'll end up having to do is maybe cut this right here and do like a 90 straight back. Same thing with right here, maybe angle this like a 90 kind of going up, basically going straight up like that. So we could have really, really short intercooler piping and maybe use like those vibrant clamps or something like that. Still have to do fuel system stuff, still have to take the tank out of the back, still have to do the all-wheel drive stuff. Those will be in the next videos. So if you guys are interested in this project and you're stoked about what I'm doing, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If this is your first time here, you've been around for a little while, I do have a lot of other cool projects that I've worked on in the past. Mark IV Supra, 240SX, maybe NS. We're not going to talk about that. But in the cool things for the future, stoked to see this all-wheel drive Civic actually take shape. But again, appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe if you guys want to see some more. Follow me on the MotionAutoTv freaking Instagram, and